Welcome to Leaping Larry's Revolutionary Reading Theatre.
Okay, today we are continuing with our read of Kim Jong-il's Socialism is a Science. We're on chapter 3 of this. The final chapter. It's just labeled as chapter 3, as you can see. And this will finish this work today. And then the next work we're going to start on is going to be black shirts and reds. So, let us begin. Our socialism, size looks good. Our socialism is based on the Juche-oriented view of an attitude towards the masses of the people. The truth and advantages of socialism are demonstrated in the people's support of and trust in it. Now that our socialism is based on the Juche-oriented view of and attitude towards the masses of the people, it has become the most advantageous and powerful socialism and enjoys the people's absolute support and trust. The masses of the people are the motive force of history. The masses of the people means a united social community which centers on working people due to their common demand for independence and creative activity. The phrase, the masses of the people, assumes a class character in class society. An exploiter society is divided into the exploiter class and the exploited class, or the ruling class and the ruled class, depending on who owns the means of production and who controls state power. The exploited class, the ruled class, forms the majority of the masses of the people. The class structure of the masses of the people is not immutable. It changes as social history develops. In capitalist society, not only workers and peasants, but also working intellectuals and many other classes and strata which champion the struggle for independence form the masses of the people. In socialist society, all people are transformed into socialist working people. So everyone is a member of the masses of the people. Of course, in socialist society too, the maneuvers of minor hostile elements continue and traitors may appear in the revolutionary ranks. Therefore, it is also necessary in socialist society to clearly distinguish between the masses of the people and the elements hostile to them. Weird. Seems like he's saying class struggle continues under socialism, but again, like a common thing that you might hear from people is DPRK abandon the class struggle or something like this. Especially from Vacuum Maoists. The phrase, the masses of the people, reflects a social and class relationship. But it is not merely a class concept. Naturally, the masses of the people consist of different classes and strata. In order to distinguish whether one is a member of the masses of the people or not, their social and class status should be considered. But this is not to be regarded as absolute. Humanity's ideas and behavior are not subject solely to the influence of their social and class status. For example, if they undergo revolutionary influence and acquire progressive ideas, they can serve the masses of people regardless of their social and class status. The basic criterion for deciding whether one is a member of the masses of the people or not is not one's social and class origin, but one's ideas. The ideological foundation on which to unite people from all walks of life into the masses of the people is not just the idea of socialism and communism. Anyone who loves the country, the people, the nation can serve the people and accordingly is qualified to be a member of the masses of the people. And I do remind people here to remember that if we do believe in a vanguard, if we are Marxist Leninists who believe in a vanguard, then we understand that by the natural course of history and the fact that we can't take hold of the ideological organs of society, the educational institutions, the mass distribution media institutions, without first having state power, then we understand that we cannot expect everybody to become socialist and communist people before the revolution happens. What the revolution needs and what the revolutionaries need is not everybody to be raised up to the exact level of the vanguard, which is sort of the problem that I think like anarchists believe like it will go forward. We just spread the ideas. Eventually everybody will just agree that this is what authority means, this is what that means, and then the revolution will succeed, right? But we know because the bourgeoisie have control of the ideological apparatus, that has a negative effect on the revolutionary enthusiasm, as well as simply materially beating them down, and they're so focused on struggling for like everyday things in their life, right? So the Vanguard and the Bolsheviks and the WPK and the Vietnamese revolutionaries and all of these other and the Cuban revolutionaries, it wasn't that all of Cuba had turned into socialist people and so they supported that. It wasn't that like in the USSR all the people turned into communist people and so they supported the Bolsheviks. It was that they supported the Bolsheviks because of the program that they had, whether or not they were communist or whatever they were called, right? And it was the mass support that mattered, not so much everybody becoming the exact same level that the vanguard was. And that's why the slogan peace, land, and bread for the Bolsheviks was such an important thing. That's why culture is such an important thing, right? Like that it is able to unify people while people are being trained into communist minded people. That's why the preservation of revolutionary and resistance culture and oppressed culture is such an important factor in the revolution. So just keep that in mind, right? Whenever we're talking about like these people, they can all be members of the masses. They're not necessarily all communists, but they can support the revolutionary program, right? Did you learn to share it and be a nice kindergartner? You might be a candidate for the masses. Yeah. Exactly. The vanguard is where the revolutionaries are. From such a point of view, at every stage of the revolution, the great leader, Comrade Kim Il sung, famous campist here who united millions of people, Kim Il sung. From such a point of view, at every stage of revolution, the great leader, Comrade Kim Il sung, united everyone who was ideologically ready to serve the fatherland, the people, and the nation into one revolutionary force. And he successfully carried out the revolution and construction. Our party trusts people of different classes and strata who are interested in the revolution. It considers them everlasting companions, not chance fellow travelers on the road to revolution. And it is leading them along the road to socialism and communism. The class nature of the imperialists and reactionaries makes them antagonistic to the masses of the people. Accordingly, they are afraid of the word people itself. Frequently using the word nation, they try to cover the class confrontation and conflict of capitalist society. The traitors to socialism also try to disguise their anti-popular maneuvers with the word citizen. They purport to be building a society for citizens. It is true that one can often hear reactionaries and traitors hypocritically using the word people, but those hostile to the people, the betrayers of the people, cannot hide their anti-popular nature. just because they use the word people. People is a noble word that only those who are faithful to the people can say proudly. The communists who fight and devote themselves wholly to the interests of the masses of the people. Someone type !God into chat, please. The great leader, Comrade Kim Il-sung, regarded the people as heaven since his youth. He ensured that the country, the army, monuments, and many noble and beautiful things in the country were named after the people. Because our socialism regards the people as such valuable beings, it has become a socialism centered on the masses. The most advantageous socialism which fully embodies the demand of the masses for independence. The masses of the people are the masters of everything in society. This is because everything in society is created by the masses of the people. The popular masses possess the greatest creative power in transforming nature and society. An individual's strength and wisdom are limited, but those of the popular masses are unlimited. If there is an omniscient and omnipotent being in this world, it is none other than the popular masses. By drawing on their unfathomable strength and wisdom, the masses create everything in society, they advance history, and drive the revolution forward. The popular masses transform nature, develop the productive forces, and create material wealth. Of course, the capitalist class takes an interest in developing the productive forces in order to gain more profit. But capitalists do not create material wealth with their own hands. The masses create ideological and cultural wealth directly, and also produce progressive thinkers, prominent scientists, and talented men and women of art and literature. Again, I remind you, this translation is done to like British English, and in Korean, this is an ungendered term that is used here. And in place of anywhere, it says man, which is why I'm just reading it that way anyway. The exploiter class, this is a limitation of translating Korean to English. The exploiter class also put forward their own ideological and cultural mouthpieces. But the ideas and culture they produce obstruct a moral, social life and development. The masses transform society. The reactionary exploiter class is only interested in maintaining and consolidating the outmoded exploitative system, not in social transformation. Well, it's not a mistranslation, but in British English, you use the word man in place of mankind or humanity quite often. Very, very common thing, especially in like, it might be less common now, but especially in like older English like textbooks and stuff, and even here in Canada, that was often, you would use man when you're meaning humanity or mankind. Like, I mean, even there's even like, you know, there's all kinds of works that are like, you know, the advancement of man, meaning mankind. One small step for man. You know, so on. It's just the translation, especially like I say, because it's into British English. The farce of reform, staged by the ruling bourgeoisie, is essentially aimed at extricating themselves from the crisis of capitalism. Yeah, George Bernard Shaw's man's inhumanity to man. Exactly. It's just like an old way of saying humanity. It's like an old jargon. This right here, I love this part though. The farce of reform, staged by the ruling bourgeoisie, is essentially aimed at extricating themselves from the crisis of capitalism. Social transformation, on progressive lines, can only be carried out by the awakened and united popular masses. Since everything in society is created by the masses, they must naturally be the masters of everything. Only in socialist society, where state power and the means of production belong to the people, can the masses be the real masters of everything in society. Since they are the masters of everything in society, the popular masses must occupy the position of masters. They must exercise their rights, fulfill their responsibility and role as masters, and enjoy a worthy and happy life as masters. As they are the masters of everything in society, the popular masses must hold the position of masters and exercise their rights as such. Like how you see tech billionaires talking about UBI to save themselves. And also, I keep telling people too that UBI is a strategy to be able to even further increase austerity. Because then they'll say, well, you're getting these things yourself, so now we can roll back these other measures. So then you'll end up at the end of the day getting less in UBI than you were getting with like the various social wages that they afforded to you because of social pressure. That's another thing that UBI exists to do. It's actually to reduce the amount that it's actually to like increase the amount that working class people end up having to pay. They'll just say like, you're given UBI, so there you go. You need really to watch the expansion. Okay. Okay, noted. I will. And hey Kay, welcome in, comrade. Everybody follow our comrade Kay. How do you say? Fantastic, comrade. Always teaching the comrades. I recommend you follow because when you catch a rare K stream, you will definitely learn some things. I hope you're doing great, Kay. Welcome in. We're just reading Kim Jong-il for election day. Yeah, as I thought was only fitting, we would read Kim Jong-il for election day today. So, welcome in. Get comfortable. The popular masses' desire for independence. And by the way, while we're reading this, everybody, I just want you to remember all of the rhetoric we hear. Just keep in the front of your mind all the rhetoric we hear about DPRK being just a copy of Japanese fascism, and how Kim Jong-il is an authoritarian dictator and Kim Il-sung before him, and now Kim Jong-un is just continuing the same authoritarian dynastic dictatorship. Keep all of that in mind while you're reading this, and like also keeping in mind that all of these works are published and very readable in the DPRK as well, right? This is petty, but I'm on a TYT stream, and I got everyone to argue about whether Anna voted Trump. That's hilarious. That's hilarious, though. I mean, I have no love for TYT, never have. I never watched TYT because, like I say, I had the personal experience with close comrade of mine trying to, like, push him to the left on certain issues. Like, it's so aggravating for both of us that eventually she just disowned him as a family friend. It's like, whoa, okay. So, ever since then, I'd, like, never... And that was when he was on there, so... Even back then, I just was like, yeah, I can't watch TYT. It's just it's too cooked for me. The popular masses' desire for independence is to occupy the position of masters and exercise their rights as such. Independence is the lifeblood of the masses, and their independent status and right to independence are the basic conditions on which their destiny depends. And by the way, if you want proof of this, think about a people deprived of their independence. The lengths that they are willing to go to realize independence. Such as Korea in the Korean War. right? Fighting, losing 20% of their population in order to keep their independence in the north, despite them having to cede territory to, of course, nuclear threats by the U.S., very real and legitimate nuclear threats. Or how about Palestine today, right? I know people sometimes, and we talked about this the other day. Sometimes people like to say it's not a war in Gaza, it's not a war in Palestine, it's a genocide. And I kind of take objection to that. And the more I thought about it, and we had a discussion about it on here, the more I do agree that I do think that that's kind of like an infantilizing statement when you actually think about it, because it's both, right? There is a genocide, but there is a war, and to sort of ignore that is to sort of like diminish the role and the struggle of the resistance and the success that the resistance is having and their ability to keep acting as a standing army, or I mean even guerrilla, even like a guerrilla like organization fights a war, right? And a war doesn't necessarily mean that both sides enter into like this a mutual conflict with each other. A war could be just one side is attacked and the other side defends itself. That also is a war. Like if we think about the Korean War, for example, that was a genocide. Yes, it was also a war that Korea won, right? Just like Palestine here, it's a genocide, yes, but it's also a war that the resistance is going to win. So I do think that I do kind of like take objection to the idea that that rhetoric that it's not a war, it's a genocide. Well, it's both. It is a genocide, but it's also a war. And the resistance is fighting a very serious and a very like inspiring just war that the resistance is fighting. In the same way that when Stalingrad was surrounded and USSR went to war against fascism, same thing, you know? It is a war, even though you're attacked, even though you're the defender. It is a war. And the whole thing, too, is you're sort of also playing into the US's hand because that's also what they do. They avoid declaring wars all the time in order to just like sort of like pass the buck and to like avoid the accountability that comes along with fighting a declared war. They did it in Korea, the police action. They did it in Vietnam, the response to whatever that like they do that over and over again. And that's what proxy wars are for. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, a lot of people have it backwards. Exactly. Don't diminish the resistance and stuff like that, right? And like that's the thing. Well, it's usually framed as Israel Hamas war. I see the argument for saying Palestine Israel war or Hamas IOF war. Just spitballing. Yeah. No, definitely Israel Hamas war. I think that's your red flag, and a good way to counter that is to say, well, it's not Israel Hamas, it's Israel Palestine, right? The war is against all four. It's not against Hamas. It's against everybody. It's against all 14 Palestinian factions, as we know. It's against the Palestinian people in general. Just like actually again a good parallel to USSR. Just like there, right? It wasn't like a war against the Soviet party. It wasn't a war against the Communist Party. It was a war against the Russian people. It was a war against the Slavic people. And that's what Germany openly, before the war even started, declared that they wanted to do. The same as, again, like the parallels between what happened in Stalingrad, what happened with USSR and Nazi Germany, and what went on with what goes on with Palestine and Israel is they're incredible parallels, and that's why people keep saying we're watching a new Holocaust. We're seeing what the Nazis did play out in modern times because the parallels are undeniable. Yeah, they recall anything they want to annihilate Hamas. Exactly. So yeah, I definitely agree with you there, Laney. I just think that so many people just say that, like I say, so many people say, well, it's not a war, it's a genocide. And I just think we should be careful with that because, I mean, part of it was, remember, like the strategy we know part of the strategy of why October 7th, why that happened was because Palestinian statehood was going to be taken off the table completely in international diplomatic talks because of a deal that Saudi Arabia was looking to make with Israel. That was part of the reason why that was picked, right? So it's like, and that was a legitimate resistance defensive struggle to do for them to choose for the factions that participated in that action on October 7th. That was a legitimate defensive struggle. And I mean, again, they chose what they wanted, but that didn't start the war. The war has been going on since Israeli settlers began arriving there, just as the war against native people here continues and has gone on since Europeans started arriving on these shores. Yeah. And also it's not just Hamas fighting, right? It's like Al Qassam, it's PFLP, it's all of these factions are fighting. And yeah, they all are again, like John Elmer, think about what John Elmer tells us every week, right? The resistance is not fighting a guerrilla fight still. They are still fighting like a standing army. The people in the Jabalia camp stay in the Jabalia camp and fight there. They're still fighting like a standing professional army. Like a state, like an army that's being directed by its leadership that has all the features of a standing army still fighting. And yeah, that's why I say, just like, again, the genocide is horrible and horrifying. Just like the genocide that killed 20% of all Koreans was, just the genocide that killed 80% of all people in Stalingrad was. And they fought wars that they won to stop that, you know? And the Palestinian war started again with the arrival of Israeli settlers, and it's a long and protracted war that the resistance will win. The US Civil War wasn't about slavery, it was about states' rights. States' rights to what, motherfucker? Yeah. Obfuscation of war, it's America's area of expertise. Yeah, they haven't declared war since World War II. America. I think it's important to note as well that there was already genocide being carried out against the Palestinian people before October 7th was ever imagined. Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's why I say, I mean, a settler colonial project cannot exist without genocide. So as soon as the settler colonial project arrives, it's both genocide and war. Because, of course, the people there are going to resist it and defend against that. And, of course, the people who are trying to occupy your land are going to fight back. The act of creating a settler colony is an act of war against the people you're colonizing. Wild, I know. And it's one that doesn't end until it's defeated. Anyway, that's my little sidetrack. Back to the work. Let's start this paragraph over. The popular masses' desire for independence is to occupy the position of masters and exercise their rights as such, meaning to be equal with all other members of the collective and exercise the same rights as the collective and have the same say in policy making matters and other decision making matters. That's what that means. Independence is the lifeblood of the masses, and their independent status and right to independence are the basic conditions on which their destiny depends. As they are the masters of the state and society, the popular masses must occupy the position of masters and exercise their rights as such in politics, the economy, culture, and in all other fields of social life. In order to thoroughly champion and implement the popular masses' independence, it is necessary to formulate all lines and policies by making them reflect the masses' desire for independence and carrying them out in reliance on the efforts of the masses themselves. The popular masses for desire for independence is the criterion for judging the correctness of lines and policies. The only way to avoid subjectivism and tortuous events in the revolution and construction is to mix with the masses and listen to what they want. The masses are the teachers of everything. The masses' desire for independence, when integrated into a system, will become ideas, lines, and policies. When formulating its lines and policies, the working class party must always go among the masses and listen to their desires. In doing their work, officials must also begin by listening to the masses' desires. Even in complex and difficult circumstances, our party has been able to establish the best socialist system and develop it continuously because it has laid down its lines and policies by going among the masses. It is also because it reflected the masses' desire for independence in its policies and carried these out by relying on their efforts. This is the secret of the triumphant advance of socialism in our country. An advance which has been made along the absolutely scientific path without the slightest deviation or setback. Apparently Hitler kicked out Himmler. Sorry, BB kicked out Galland. Very, very, very poignant joke. Thank you, Powerful. In order to champion and realize independence of the popular masses, we must totally safeguard the independence of the country and the nation. Our party's consistent revolutionary principle is to achieve independence in politics, self-sufficiency in the economy, and self-reliance in national defense. Duce, baby. Our party and our people have treasured the independence of the country and the nation. They have thoroughly implemented the revolutionary principle of political independence, economic self-sufficiency, and self-reliant national defense, despite the pressure of the imperialists and the dominationists. They have thus firmly safeguarded national sovereignty and dignity, and continue to advance. They consistently adhere to their convictions and hold high the socialist banner. The imperialists now violently interfere in other countries' affairs and trample upon the nation's sovereignty. They try to justify these acts under the excuse of defense of human rights, quote unquote. Human rights cannot be conceived separately from the independence of countries and nations. Human rights can never be ensured for people who are dominated by foreign forces. Human rights are rights to independence, which must be exercised by the people in the political, economic, ideological, cultural, and all other spheres of social life. The human rights, quote unquote, advertised by the imperialists are privileges of the rich. Privileges to do anything on the strength of money. The imperialists do not recognize the right of unemployed people to work, or the right of orphans or people without support to eat and survive. For instance, as human rights. As they do not grant working people elementary rights to existence, and as they pursue anti-popular policies and policies of racial and national discrimination and colonialism, the imperialists have no right to speak about human rights. The imperialists are the most heinous enemy of human rights. They violate the people's right to independence and interfere in the internal affairs of other countries on the pretext of defending human rights. We will never tolerate any imperialist interference or arbitrariness aimed at infringing upon the sovereignty of our country and nation, which we will staunchly safeguard. The popular masses, as the masters of everything in society, should fulfill their role and responsibilities. Only then can they defend their position and rights as befitting masters. The revolution and construction are undertakings for the popular masses and are their own undertakings. They must be responsible for and must solve all problems arising in revolution and construction through their own efforts. Oh, imperialism bad? Yet he's imperialist. Curious. Weird that, huh? Don't laugh. I have actually seen people declare that somehow Korea is imperialist. So don't laugh too hard at that one. Let me just say. Also, for a dictator, he sure stresses the need for the popular masses to be in control of society. Seems like a dangerous thing, but, go off, sir. In order to make the popular masses fulfill their responsibility and role as masters of everything in society, their consciousness as masters should be enhanced. To this end, priority should be given to ideological transformation and political work over all other undertakings. This is an intrinsic requirement of socialist society. In socialist society, where the popular masses are the masters of state and society, the main driving force of social development is the high revolutionary enthusiasm and creative initiative of the masses, who are equipped with independent ideological consciousness and who are united rock firm behind the party and the leader. It is only when all members of society are transformed in a communist way and their revolutionary zeal and creative initiative are boosted by giving priority to ideological transformation and political work that they can press on with the revolution and construction and fully demonstrate the advantages of socialism. In socialist construction, therefore, efforts must always be concentrated on educating the masses of the people and on boosting their revolutionary enthusiasm and creative activeness by giving priority to ideological transformation and political work. There is no other master stroke for propelling socialist construction than that of giving priority to ideological transformation and political work in order to enhance the role of the masses. Trying to move a person by means of money contradicts the intrinsic nature of socialist society. The advantages of socialism cannot be demonstrated by that method. Such a capitalist method cannot enhance the people's revolutionary enthusiasm or creative initiative, and worse still, may degenerate the socialist system itself and throw it into jeopardy. By giving definite priority to ideological transformation and political work, our party could dynamically advance the revolution in construction and display the advantages of socialism to the full, relying on the masses' great revolutionary enthusiasm and creative initiative. The high revolutionary zeal and creative initiative of the popular masses, who are united firmly behind the party and the leader, is the source of strength on which our socialism, centered on the masses, can demonstrate its advantage and invincibility as the most scientific socialism. In order to make the masses of the people fulfill their responsibility and role as the masters of everything in society, their creative strength should be cultivated. This is an important matter to which primary attention should always be given in the revolution and construction. As the popular masses create everything in society, the success of the revolution and construction depends on how to train them into powerful beings. Training them into powerful beings means developing their creative ability along with their independent consciousness. In capitalist society, the popular masses' demand to boundlessly develop as independent and creative beings cannot be realized properly. The imperialists and capitalists need slaves who produce surplus value and follow them obediently, not independent and creative people who have been brought into their independent consciousness and who are developed in many ways. That is why they resort to every possible means and method to degrade working people into slaves of capital, degenerating them ideologically and deforming their creative ability. The popular masses' demand to develop into independent and creative beings can be fully realized only in socialist society. Our party has established the most superior socialist education system and a system under which the entire population studies. It is running these at the expense of the state and society and is thus brilliantly carrying out the task of bringing up all members of society as full-fledged builders of socialism and communism. As a result, our people are pressing on with socialist construction, and they are solving every problem through their own efforts and wisdom under the banner of self-reliance, even in an extremely difficult situation. This is written in the 80s. The 90s. Sorry, the 90s. The masses of the people must enjoy a worthwhile and happy life as the masters of everything in society. Material life occupies the important place in their worthwhile and happy life. It forms the basis of social life. As they are the masters of state and society in socialist society, the masses of the people should lead an affluent and civilized life. By stepping up economic construction, our party has consolidated and developed the socialist economic system and built a powerful socialist and independent national economy. It has thereby laid solid foundations for satisfying the people's material life through our own efforts. Notice how he doesn't say that it has solved these things. It has laid solid foundations. The potential of the independent national economy we have built up through self-reliance and fortitude is quite enormous. It is a valuable asset for providing a moral and stable material life for everyone. We must continuously invest great effort into the construction of the socialist economy in order to further strengthen the country's economic power and steadily improve our people's standard of material life according to socialist demands. What is essential for the masses is in their worthwhile, happy life is to lead a dignified life, while adding luster to their social political integrity and enjoying the love and trust of the social community. Naturally, the people need to live such a life, but this is impossible in exploiter society. The exploitation and oppression of human by human is incompatible with love and trust for the people. There cannot be genuine love and trust between the exploiter and the exploited. In capitalist society, the personal value of humanity has been converted into an exchange value and is appraised by means of money and wealth. Hence, love for and trust in the masses is inconceivable. The bourgeois reactionaries' advocacy of love which transcends class is a crafty act to disguise the reactionary nature of the capitalist exploiting society and to pacify contradictions between classes. The preceding theory of the working class laid bare the reactionary nature of the hypocritical love which transcends class, advocating by the bourgeois reactionaries. It made clear that in class society, love also assumes a class character. The fact that love assumes a class character does not mean that love and trust can be exchanged only between people of identical social and class status. The relationship of love and trust between people can be established between those who, despite the difference in their social and class status, fight together to defend the independence of the popular masses and who carry out creative activities together. When the socialist system is established, class contradictions are eliminated and relationships between people are transformed from those of contradictions and mistrust into those of love and trust. In socialist society, love and trust flourish in the social community and between its members and among the individuals in society. They are demonstrated in the most sublime form between leader and their men, their people. When all members of society proudly maintain their socio-political integrity, with the result that the leader and their people, and the party and the whole people are tied by love and trust, and the whole of society has been transformed into a socio-political organism, their life is the most worthwhile and beautiful life. The society that has realized this is the most solid and dynamic society. Socialism, centered on the masses, fully embodies comradely unity and cooperation, and the relationship of love and trust in all spheres of social life. It transforms politics into politics of love and trust. Love and trust constitute the essence of politics in socialist society, where the masses of people have been transformed from objects of politics to the masters of politics. We call the politics of love and trust benevolent politics. Although the imperialists embellish bourgeois politics and sling mud at socialist politics, clamoring about things like the multi-party system and parliamentary democracy, black cannot be made white. Bourgeois politics is a plutocracy, are the harsh and crafty politics of oppression and plunder. In order to realize genuinely benevolent politics in socialist society, a political leader who unfailingly loves the people must come forward. But this is great man theory, but this is dynasty thinking. No, it's not. This is simply making a very simple and truthful statement that our organization needs leadership. In fact, leaders even. And while, we use dialectics, but with dialectics, we also understand that there is a relationship between masses and individuals who are members of the masses. And it's not just a homogenous mass of people reduced to the sum of their economic and class status, right? They're all sorts of individuals with all sorts of different ideas and things and all of this stuff, right? And so we have to understand there's a direct dialectical, as Che Guevara says, relationship between the individual and between the mass, and therefore between leaders and between the masses. And to deny the role of leaders and leadership in a revolutionary struggle is as good as denying the role of, like, a vanguard or a political revolutionary conscious party. And so now it's going to describe what sort of traits should a leader of revolutionary politics have. And I think that this is very fucking a very good thing. And actually, we can see places where this failed to happen. USSR, for example, where this wasn't the case, and it led to some serious problems. I like when Larry Socratic methods himself. Well, thank you. So, they're going to describe it here. And just look, this is, if you disagree that this is what our leader should be like, please speak up and tell me. So, a political leader of socialism should be a master in leadership, but first of all, they should be a person of virtue who loves the people boundlessly. That is simply because socialist politics is, in essence, benevolent politics. An incompetent political leader of socialism may bring about a delay in the development of socialist society, but one who has no virtue may betray the people and even lead socialism to ruin. If the politics of love and trust are to be exercised in socialist society, the Socialist Party in power must be built into a motherly party. So if you think that doesn't that shouldn't be how socialist leaders are, boundlessly loyal and loving of the people, let me know so I can put you on the sus list. I mean, so I can have friendly conversations with you. I mean, anyway, if the politics of love and trust are to be exercised in socialist society, the Socialist Party in power must be built into a motherly party. The working class party is the leading political organization of society. Accordingly, the way the state organs and all other organizations in socialist society serve the people relates to how the party is built. Building the party as a motherly party is a prerequisite for making state organs and all other organizations in socialist society into servants of the people. Wait a second. We're trying to make public servants into actual public servants? Hold on. I didn't know that's what was going on here. Okay, never mind. Cancelled. It's a wild, radical idea, I know, but bear with me. Public servants should be public servants. And that's why in socialist societies too, by the way, one of the most common ways to do this, like what's amazing is that authoritarianism ends up being directed at like the wannabe political careerists and shit, right? Which is why like political parties, the Revolutionary Party, the Workers' Party, in any socialist society is paid the average of the lowest and highest wage. That's the way it was in USSR. That's the way it is in DPRK. That's the way it is in Cuba. And that way, it's a way to sort of deter people who are just getting there to get all these riches and the backdoor deals and all that other shit, right? It's like you're doing it because you want to serve the people. It's sort of like it's like a safety mechanism to try and ensure that, or to help ensure that. One of the many mechanisms, along with purging the party. Which again, purges aren't about killing people. It's about expelling people from the party who are not serving the people. And it turns out it's actually a good thing to do. You know, it's one thing that bourgeois parties almost never do. These big tent, just like believe whatever the fuck you want type parties. That's one of the like measures that we learned is important from the experience of the Paris Commune, if I'm to call back to the Karl Marx anime from earlier. Building the party as a motherly party means that the party should become a genuine guide and defender of the people, which takes meticulous care of the destiny of the popular masses under its charge, just as a mother deeply loves her children and looks after them warmly. In the past, the party was regarded mainly as a weapon in the class struggle. The working class party should naturally wage class struggle and be that weapon. However, all party activities must, to all intents and purposes, proceed from boundless love for and trust in the people. It must give priority to defending the people's interests, and it must fight against those who violate their interests. Not a few parties lost the support and trust of the popular masses and came to an end in the long run. This is because they were not built as motherly parties, which take warm care of the destiny of the people under their charge. They degenerated into bureaucratic parties, which wielded power and abused their authority. Looking at you, Gorbachev. If the socialist ruling party is to be built as a motherly party, all cadres and party members should be educated in the spirit of boundless love and sincere service for the people. I love Michael Perenni's I like Michael Perenni's analysis on Gorbachev, because Michael Perenni's always like, well, when you think our leaders are stupid, you're the one being stupid, right? And then when he talks about Gorbachev, he's like, well, I think Gorbachev meant well, but he's just like, he couldn't do anything, and it was just all over his head, and it was too much for him. He knew what he was doing. He knew what he was working with Yeltsin, and he was fucking more than happy to take some money and fucking pocket some for himself and have his family be all fucking comfortable and then lament about it later as if he fucking regretted the system being overthrown or something. And and then people fall for it later. Like, nah, nah, he knew what was happening. Mans knew more than people gave him credit for. Absolutely. He fucking went on that Pizza Hut commercial. And that Pizza Hut commercial, we'll watch it after this. That Pizza Hut commercial, even in that, like, it's wild how, like, politically conscious that Pizza Hut commercial is. It's so cursed. It's so cursed. You watch it and it's aggravating to watch. So we'll watch it after we're done this. Because it will be good after reading this part. Yeah, Gorbachev is sitting in hell next to Reagan and Thatcher. Yeah. I'm gonna show that Pizza Hut commercial, Salty, and it is so fucking cursed how politically conscious it is. It's like, you're gonna be like, what the fuck? Okay, so let me finish so we can watch it. Let me go. Here we go. Done rambling. Reading. Doing it. In order to sincerely serve the people, one must first think of the people before oneself, and regard the pleasure and pain of the people as one's own. Loyal service to the people is a communist's sacred duty. Herein lies the true value of communist life. A person who works for the revolution enters the working class party not for their self-interest, fame, or authority, but to serve the people more faithfully. Those who undergo hardship before anybody else and put it before pleasure, and who take charge of difficult tasks on their own while giving credit for success to others, they are the true communists and members of the working class party. In order to bring up those party members, ideological education should be intensified among them so that they serve the people devoutly. It is important, while building the socialist ruling party as a motherly party, to thoroughly transform the cadres in a revolutionary fashion, and to actively struggle against the abuse of power, bureaucracy, irregularities, and corruption among them, which are the main factors that obstruct the implementation of benevolent politics in socialist society. It's like, oh, look at how, do you see how authoritarian they are? They're telling them to struggle, they're telling their people to struggle against abuse of power, bureaucracy, and irregularities in this very, very popular, widely distributed work in DPRK. Pretty fucking authoritarian, huh? Vile, really. Just vile. Socialism is opposed to all privileges. With the establishment of socialist society, the privileged class disappears. As long as the people possess state power and the means of production, the privileged class cannot come into being in socialist society. But if a struggle is not waged against the abuse of power, bureaucracy, irregularities, and corruption in socialist society, some ill-prepared cadres can deteriorate ideologically and become divorced from the masses, and thus grow into a privileged class. However good the policies pursued by the party and state may be, they cannot be carried out properly if the cadres resort to abuse of power and to bureaucracy, because all policies of the party and state are implemented through the cadres. If the cadres exercise privileged power, act bureaucratically, indulge in irregularities and corruption, the Socialist Party in power will lose the support and confidence of the masses, and without their support, the party cannot maintain its existence. The historical lesson shows that it is tantamount to digging its own grave for the socialist ruling party to tolerate the abuse of power, bureaucracy, irregularities, or corruption among the cadres. And the cadres includes Kim Jong-un, by the way. Just so you know. Okay, Landham, have a good day, comrade. Great to see you hang out. Thank you. Everybody follow Landham. Our party saw through the danger of the deviations that could manifest themselves in a ruling party earlier on, and it tirelessly struggled against them. Under the party slogan, "We serve the people," our cadres are now faithfully serving the people as their servants. But we cannot, in the least, neglect class struggle and the struggle against the abuse of power, bureaucracy, irregularities, and corruption, because they are rooted in the vestiges of outdated ideas. And because the imperialists continue their schemes of ideological and cultural infiltration in order to implant anachronistic ideas in our country. We should continue to vigorously wage educational work and an ideological struggle among cadres to root out these deviations. Hey, Brisk, welcome in. Great to see ya. I hope you're doing well, comrade. Epjulasi, which means welcome. Our party's policy, our party's politics are characterized by love and trust and benevolent politics. They constitute the basic factor that defines our socialism's advantages and invincibility. Thanks to the benevolent politics of the party and the leader, our people enjoy a most worthwhile and dignified life. Their noble socio-political integrity is enhanced under our own style of socialist system, which is centered on the popular masses. It is a true feature of our society that all its members form a large, harmonious family. They trust, love, and help each other, and enjoy a worthwhile and happy life together. In our country, everyone regards the support and supports the leader as they would their own father. They trust and follow the party, regarding its embrace as that of their own mother. The leader, the party, and the people form one socio-political organism and share the same destiny. The whole of society overflows with communist morality. For instance, one devotes one's life without hesitation to save one's revolutionary comrade from danger. And young men and women become life companions of honorably disabled soldiers and take warm care of orphans and old people without support, as they would their own relations. This is a proud result of the benevolent politics of our party. The vitality of the benevolent politics of our party finds expression not only in our people's noble spirit and moral traits, but also in their upright and equitable material and cultural life, which improves as days go by. All our people are free from worries about food, clothing, and housing. They continue to learn throughout their whole life and enjoy long lives and good health thanks to the free and compulsory education and free medical care. In our country, the state provides stable jobs for all able-bodied working people. It looks after the whole population under its responsibility and even takes warm care of those who have temporarily lost the ability to work, those without this ability, and old people without support. Aged revolutionaries and war veterans, honorably disabled soldiers, and meritorious people enjoy their worthwhile life under the state's care, held in the people's high esteem and love. What exactly does Juche mean? Is it something like communism? So Juche is, I mean, it's kind of a couple things, right? So you can think of Juche as being the specific political theory that we're reading about right now, or the other way that you can see it used is sometimes you will see them say established Juche, which simply means to establish independence in thinking and independence in politics, self-reliance in economy, and self-reliant defense. So the struggle to implement these things can be said to be what you'll see sometimes called as the struggle to implement Juche. Basically, all of the things that like the Palestinian resistance, the Gaza resistance has had to do in order to survive and fight back against the Israeli onslaught have been that's an example of Juche, right? In a sense, as well as trying to build a people's government, like Like, yeah, so Juche is like the the struggle to advance humanity's independence, the struggle for socialism and communism. So yeah, you can see it used both ways. Also, it's also just this political theory that we're reading about here called Juche. Great question, though. I love that question. It used to be a lot of times you would see instead, like nowadays, if you look up the meaning of Juche, it'll oftentimes just be called independence, which is okay, but it's misleading. It used to be when you would look it up, it would be Jong, which is like a Korean word that meant independence from all fetters. And so alluding to that need for independence, self-reliant economy, and or self-sufficient economy, self-reliant defense. And the Juche view, of course, is that all three of those things are necessary to have a successful resistance struggle and also to have a successful revolution, ultimately. Which is why I'm a staunch Juche supporter. And I think that all like and all other exactly, yes. So it comes from the word independence, but with greater meaning, not independence alone. Exactly, you got it. A communist version of independence, if you will, that actually understands that independence means political independence, economic independence, self-sufficient economy, and a self-reliant defense. Again, Gaza being able to produce its own weapons to fight against the Zionist onslaught is an example of them using Juche, a self-reliant defense industry. And if they didn't have that, then the resistance wouldn't be where it is. Demonstrate so the Palestinian resistance itself also helps us demonstrate the importance of Juche for everyone. And while DPRK sort of puts it into a philosophy, we can see every resistance struggle and every liberation struggle is sort of being like Juche expressed, right? Every legitimate decolonial resistance struggle is like an expression of Juche be trying to be realized in practice. Yeah, no problem. Happy to, Brisk, and welcome in. The younger generation is basking in the great benefits of our party's benevolent politics. They are the successors to the revolution and the future of our country and nation. The future of the revolution and the destiny of the country and nation depend on how they are brought up. Therefore, their upbringing cannot be the sole responsibility of their parents. In capitalist society, where the future of the younger generations depend on their parents' purse, they cannot avoid falling victim to social inequality and social evils. Due to the aggression and intervention of the imperialists and the plunder of the exploiter class, many of the younger generation throughout the world lose their lives or are maimed by war, social conflict, disease, and hunger, or they wander about the streets committing crimes and degenerating. By contrast, in our socialist society, with its benevolent politics, the state brings up all the younger generation. Our party and the state accord them the warmest love and solicitude. In our country, they study to their heart's content under the best 11-year, now 12-year, universal compulsory education system, and are supplied with school uniforms and school things by the state. Thanks to the warmest love and care of the party and the leader, the state and society, our younger generation is growing up happily without envying anyone. Um, well, social evils, not necessarily, I mean, crime and drugs are an expression of the social evils, or can be an expression of them. But what he means is like ideological evils like racism, greed, um, you know, the ideological traits that might, yeah, get people into black shoes with brown pants. Yeah, yeah. No, but it's like the ideological things that can sometimes be expressed in people like, participating in crimes and stuff like that. And now, when I say crime, don't misunderstand me. It's just like crime, someone who needs to steal to feed their family. Just like Gerald Horne points out as well, there's also big lumpin as well, who sometimes even work with like certain corrupt authorities and corrupt politicians as well, right? That there is a big lumpin that we need to consider as well as people who are the normal the lumpen proletariat. So yeah, social evils as in greed, I mean, even though he might not mean it's specifically, we can extend what he means because this is a general theory, right, Lainey? And that's what's great about a theory that is a call to action. The theory thus implies that social evils like transphobia, homophobia, racism, sexism, all of these things are a result of just of these things, of being left from having solid material life, from being excluded from having love and trust of the social community, and from having equal say in the social community. AKA their rights have been trampled on, their voices have been trampled on. Oh yeah, there's an ad coming up. If anybody would like to gift a sub to our new chatter, it would be greatly appreciated. If not, thank you for your consideration anyway, and I love you anyway. All your support means a ton. All of the popular policies enforced in our country today prove the superiority of our own style of socialist system, which is centered on the popular masses. These policies emanate from the noble love of the party and the leader for the people. Benevolent politics is the traditional method. Its historical root had already been carried by the great leader Comrade Kim Il-sung in the days of anti-Japanese revolution, and was further deepened developed by him as the revolution and construction advanced. Let's exclamation mark God. This is the last time we get to do it for the work. By the respected leader, Comrade Kim Il-sung was the benevolent father of our people, who cherished the warmest love for them. Under the motto, "The people are my God," which he adopted when he was young, Comrade Kim Il-sung mixed with the people, shared weal and woe with them, and devoted his all for them. Throughout his life, because it held the respected Comrade Kim Il-sung, who was endowed with the noble virtue of boundless love for the people. Notice how it says. Notice the first thing it lists is boundless love for the people. As its leader, our country could record a brilliant history of genuine politics for the people, benevolent politics. So what is the most important thing about Kim Il-sung, everybody? Our party continues to carry forward the brilliant traditions of benevolent politics established by the great leader, Comrade Kim Il-sung. So now, with this knowledge, let me ask you, what do you think is meant when they say we need to staunchly establish Kim Il-sung's ideas? Well, it's exactly that, isn't it? It's that love for the people. Our party Hey Zoot, welcome in, comrade. Our party continues to carry forward the brilliant traditions of benevolent politics established by the great leader, Comrade Kim Il-sung. Our party's benevolent politics are the politics of extensive love and trust. The party loves and trusts people from all areas of society without discrimination. In this sense, we call our party's benevolent politics all-embracing politics. In this sense, we call our party's benevolent politics all-embracing politics. I said the same thing twice. What do you know? They are politics of invariable love and trust. Our party is responsible for everyone's socio-political integrity and guides this.
It's all for one motherfucker and one motherfucker for all motherfuckers.
Right, thank you thank you so much for the gift sub to Mag. Appreciate that. Salute, comrade. Even when a person has committed an error, our party does not put them in the cold, but re-educates them to lead them onto the right track. It shows constant care for them so that they will exalt their socio-political integrity to the last. The noble love and trust shown by our leader and party for the people have produced unfailing loyalty to the party and the leader from the people. Our people have been well known since olden times as a diligent and courageous people with a strong sense of justice, a noble sense of obligation, and a high sense of decorum. Which is why the imperialists in the past, by the way, called them a hermit kingdom, because of that sense of justice and fighting against the market penetration. Our people's fine traits now flourish and develop in every respect, based on new spiritual and moral qualities. Our people are deeply grateful to the party and the leader for their benevolent politics and work heart and soul to repay the favor with loyalty. Our people's loyalty to the great leader, Comrade Kim Il-sung, is shown on a nobler plane today after they suddenly lost their fatherly leader. It is the people's unshakable will to loyally uphold the respected Comrade Kim Il-sung forever as the leader of the party and the revolution. Under the leadership of the party, our people are working with redoubled efforts to win fresh victories. True to the behests of their fatherly leader, Comrade Kim Il-sung, no other people are equipped with such noble spirit and moral qualities as ours. They are unfailingly loyal to the party and the leader, and work devotedly for their country, society, and the collective. We take great pride in having such excellent people. For our party to have trained ours into such excellent people is its great achievement and a brilliant victory for benevolent politics. Notice how they're saying how they're excellent people from being trained by the working class party, as opposed to our party's benevolent politics are the source of a single-hearted unity of the leader, the party, and the people. The single-hearted unity of the leader, party, and people based on love and loyalty is the most solid unity, and our own style of socialism, rooted in single-hearted unity, is ever victorious. People throughout the world express their great admiration for our socialism, saying that it is the most ideal socialism. This is because our socialism is genuine socialism centered on the popular masses, which fully applies the principle of love for and trust in the people. The reason why our own style of socialism, centered on the popular masses, is invincible, which enjoys the full support and trust in the people. The popular masses maintain their position and exercise their rights as masters of the state and society. They discharge their responsibilities, play their role as the masters, and lead a worthwhile and happy life in such a capacity. Our party will invariably and fully pursue genuine politics for the people, benevolent politics, which regard the popular masses, the masters of everything in society, as supreme beings, and bestows everlasting love and trust on them. Our party and people are faced with the heavy yet honorable task of carrying forward and consummating through generations the socialist cause of Juche, which was initiated and led by the great leader Comrade Kim Il-sung. As it has always won victories in the past by believing in and relying on the people, so too in the future. Our party will accomplish the socialist cause of Juche by believing in and relying on them. Humanity-centered socialism, socialism centered on the popular masses, is absolutely scientific and the most advantageous and powerful socialism. For its scientific accuracy and truth, socialism is sure to be victorious.